GitHub Copilot is a new feature introduced by GitHub to help developers improve their productivity. It uses machine learning algorithms to analyze your code and provide suggestions based on best practices, popular libraries, and frequently used patterns. It provides real-time suggestions and hints as you code. Here I have a Hello World application running in Flutter. Let's see how we would use Copilot to turn it into a Canadian address entry form. Let's start by creating a model. Create a file first. Name it address_model.dart. Then open it. Inside that file, let's write an annotation saying that we need a Canadian address model with 2 street address fields. Halfway through this process, the Copilot begins to understand what we want and suggests to complete the annotation. We will accept that. All we need to do now is to create a class named addressModel, open curly braces, and let the Copilot do the rest. There. 1 second later, Copilot offers a suggestion. As you can see, it consists of 2 address fields, street address 1 and 2, as well as city, province, and postal code, which lines up with typical Canadian address model. Copilot was also nice enough to create the default constructor, and to and from JSON conversion methods. If we scroll up and hover over the suggestion, a suggestion controls will pop up. It allows us to browse through multiple suggestions and pick the one that suits us best, accept or dismiss the code. After the suggestion is accepted, we can see that there's a small problem. The Copilot forgot to add the required keyword to the arguments in default constructor. Let's go ahead and fix that. Now everything is okay. Copilot also added a very simple annotation to every field and method of this model. If we are not entirely happy with the annotation, we can ask the Copilot to elaborate. All we need to do is to focus in and start typing. Along the way, the Copilot will analyze the code and start offering suggestions that best fit this particular piece of code. In this case, I want to describe which JSON fields are required in this named constructor. As you can see, I do very little typing. Most times I only have to press Tab key to accept the suggestion, or Control and Right keys to accept suggestion word by word. Copilot was also smart enough to realize that the street address 1 field is required, and the street address 2 is optional. Okay, I think I'm happy with my model. Now it's time to create a view based on the model we've just created. Let's start by creating a new file and call it address_view.dart. Inside that file, let's create a skeleton of an empty page and import necessary libraries. Now we need to instantiate an address object based on the model we've just created. After I enter the variable type and name, the Copilot offers me to call a default constructor to instantiate the object. This is exactly what we want. Let's go ahead and accept that. Now, the Copilot added some mock data to the address fields. We don't want that, so let's go ahead and remove it. With the data object ready, we now can ask Copilot to create a UI based on this model. All we need to do is to go into our build method and write a comment describing the content of the code we are about to write. After that, we give the Copilot a second to think. And here we are. The Copilot has generated a UI form with elements based on the existing address model. In this case, the Copilot offers 2 suggestions. one with the initial value for every field, and one without the initial value. I think I like the one with initial value better. Let's accept that. Save, and now we have our form with all the fields ready to go. Let's replace our Hello World text in our window with the form we've just created. Control Save, hot reload, and here's our form. The one thing that's missing now is the Submit button. Let's go ahead and add that. Find the place in the code to place the button. Same as before, simply state in the comment that you need a Submit button. Now accept the code snippet for the button. Control Save, and here's our button. I don't like, however, how it's all the way up against the input text field. Let's go ahead and fix that by adding a spacer. And, as always, the Copilot does half of our work for us. Our UI is now complete, and we can move on to our next task.